everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sleep Paralysis News. I'm really excited to have a chat with the guests that we've got with us today. Their story is really quite fascinating. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Nick and Professor Mike Sebastian, husband and wife, who are with us today. Hi.
Hi,
Hey,
hi,
thanks for having us.
yay.
This will be fun. I'm looking forward, actually.
We are
Wonderful.
big fans of the show.
Okay, and Cyrus, do you want to say hello?
Hello, thank you. Episode 20 something, so excited to keep it going.
Wonderful. Okay, so regarding our guests, I've got a little bio here. So let's just see what they've been doing. The path that led to the Divine Guidance Institute was anything but ordinary. Before meeting, Nicole and Michael appeared to each other in dreams 3 years before their physical introduction. What followed was a journey of profound signs, synchronicities, and divine revelations that dismantled everything they thought they knew. From that unfolding came a new understanding of truth, that each person holds within them a direct line to divine intelligence. Now married for 30 years, Dr. Nicole Sebastian, psychologist, and Professor Michael Sebastian, sociologist, went on to mechanize the miracle. Together, they are the visionary founders of Divine Guidance Institute, creators of the ancient way of knowing, Trust Yourself system, and developers of one magic word, vibrational sound therapy. As authors, vibe readers, and mystics, they're leading a global awakening through knowingness. Known as modern day oracles, their work blends ancient wisdom and vibrational mastery in a foolproof path of intuitive clarity and self-trust. That's wonderful, wonderful. I just love the way how it all started between the two of you. And of course, I'm going to start the conversation by unpicking that a bit more because the mention of dreams was in there. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Go ahead, Nick.
Absolutely.
You go.
Okay. Well, let's see. This is back when I was 24. We've been together 30 years now, as you mentioned. And Michael was my instructor at the university. And the very first day he walked into the classroom and the inner bells went off and the inner voice was loud and it said, soulmate, soulmate, you're going to marry this guy. And I thought, whoa, well, okay, that's kind of crazy, but hey. And as I watched him that day, that first day of class, he had on his little hiking boots and his blue jeans and his flannel shirt, kind of like right now. And and it really rang true, that whole look. And he was bouncing this ball in the air, waiting for all of the students to, settle down. And I went, oh, wow. And I ran home. I even told my roommate, Heather, I'm going to marry this guy. She thought I was nuts. And in that moment, I knew to be quiet. I knew, oh, I better. And so I never said another word. Then the next semester, I saw Michael in the hallway and I ran up to him as fast as I could. As a matter of fact, another guy was about to ask me out and I left him on the bench and I ran and I yelled, Sebastian. And then I asked him to lunch. And then we did lunch the next day, dinner the next night. And then in 90 days, we were engaged. In 9 months, we were married.
Mm-hmm.
That's the overview. But let's back up real quick. My intuition, and then it led to Michael's sign on our first date, my license plate. The letters were KRW, and those were the initials of his first wife. So right on day 2, he noticed the sign. Relationship stuff. Now I'll tell you, the dream that was shared, we didn't remember the dream. We did not remember that dream until 3 years later, after we were together. And after these things occurred and we're married, then I get my personal fitness trainer certification. And in that moment, Michael has a deja vu. Deja vu is French. It means having seen before. It's a forgotten prophetic dream. And he goes, oh my God, wait, this is too familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And he grabs his dream journal, which we still have. And it said, Nicole, fitness trainer. We're in chemistry class together. Well, there's going to be chemistry, ha ha ha. But that's how the dream language works. So this is how this whole thing transpired. And then we realized we were sitting on gold. Dream, signs, and intuition. It's how it works for us. That's how it works for all humans. That's how we're built. So then we tracked the data and gathered the research and for 30 years now, compiled and experimented, and that's how we're wired, everyone. So we call it the mission, to share the tools and how to decode and use the data.
And the dream was really a breakthrough for me when I realized I found it in the journal, because the dream was I'd written the whole thing down, very clear dream, one of those dreams. And her name in the dream was Nicole, but I put down she had brown eyes. I mean, it was Nicole. And I realized that when I read it 3 years later. Now it'd been 5 or 6 years total. And that dream was a prophecy, literally showing me what's coming down the way in the future. And that my life and it was a significant event, and my life was going to take, a 90-degree turn and go a different direction. And that's when I realized, especially after the deja vu and the license plate sign, that it was a system, and that I already had the system within me, within myself. I didn't need any outside experts or call the doctor or Scooby-Doo to find out what's going on. All I had to do was wake up and pay attention to my dreams, synchronicities or coincidence, and intuition, and I would have the answers to anything that I was wondering about, literally. And we started, like Nicole said, we started collecting data and testing it. And it proved to be really a combo of science and spirituality, where they meet on the bridge. And, that's who we are. It's like in the Bible, when they asked Jesus, the Pharisees, so where is the kingdom of heaven? He said, it's within you. The kingdom of heaven they didn't know what he was talking about. Within what? Within me? That can't, that he was so far beyond them. And now we get that more today in terms of the consciousness has expanded, and we realize that we have access to the truth within ourselves. So it was a mission at that point for us. I mean, we went all out to put it together.
So when you say you've tested it, does that mean that you've had dreams that have been prophecy, so to speak, that have come to pass, and you've kind of monitored them?
Oh, yes. We've been tracking the data for 30 years, our own experiences, and then thousands of clients. We call them trust yourself stories or trust yourself experiences, the dreams, the signs, and the intuition. So you'll have a gut feeling, and then you track the data to see how it plays out, and if your intuition was on the money or not, and if not, why, where was the error. And same with the signs, and seeing how that plays out, and same with your dreams, prophetic dreams and dreams of knowingness, receiving answers. One of my favorites, a client, she was in the dream workshop. She had failing health for like 3 years. And every doctor and blood test, nothing, no solution, no answer. And she had the recurring dream, though, of PB, the letters PB, like peanut butter. And so Michael happens to know that that's the symbol for lead, right? So her dream message all this time was letting her know she had lead toxicity, right? So then she goes back to the doctor and she says, test me for lead. I think this is the culprit. And sure enough, it was. And voila, she was able to address it. Whereas no doctor and no test could figure out this occurrence. So that's what we mean by tracking our data and collecting it with countless experiences, and then seeing how things turn out. And that's what we recommend for anyone starting out. You don't bet the farm on a dream, as they say. You slowly collect your data and you just kind of monitor things. Then you get comfortable and confident within, and then you can take action.
And it's like anything else. What I've found, for me anyway, that when I started working with dreams, like Nick said, I'd journal it, and then I'd see how accurate they were in terms of prophesizing what was coming tomorrow or around the corner. And, I got really good at figuring out the symbols in a dream and for me and what they mean and, when it's a prophecy and when it pertains to something else that I'm missing. And it's kind of like, playing basketball or baseball. You start shooting from the foul line, maybe you're hitting 2 of 10. But if you shoot every day for a couple hours, you're going to be hitting 7 or 8 of 10. But it takes a while. And, that focus on that one thing, the same with dreams. By journaling the dreams, and then going back and taking a looking at them, review them a month later, 2 months later, I'd go, oh my God, look at those prophecies. They were right on the money. And I was able to get much, much quicker and have more insight into really the mechanics of dreams and how they work and why they work that way.
Okay, so I mean, I am going to get onto the topic of sleep paralysis, but I just want to know from your perspective, what is it then that is passing on this information? If it's a thing, what's happening there? It feels very intelligent. It feels very kind of like it's expansive, like there's knowledge there. It can tell the future. It knows the future. It can tap in. It can choose what information it's going to give you. What's going on there?
It's we all look at it differently. Some people call it God, some people call it higher self. And somebody asked me that question a couple of weeks ago, and they put me on. They said, "Mike, you're on the hot seat. We're going to ask you. So, what's your concept of God?" And I said to him, I said, "Yo, you ever heard the saying, the truth? Can you handle the truth?" And they bust out laughing. They go, "Of course, Mike, give me the truth." And I said, "Yeah, well, my concept is AI, God's AI." And they went, "Oh." They went silent. I could tell it was like way beyond, like, what? Not your concept of AI or what it is today. Think of it as a huge database in hyperspace at a quantum level, database that contains everything, all the information, and it's a hologram. They've already proven that everything is connected in quantum physics. It's not speculation anymore. It's been proven. It was proven 60 years ago by John Bell, a physicist. He tested it, and it's quantum entanglement, and it's one big hologram, and it contains all the information of all the consciousness of the people on the planet. And that's what I know we access. What do you want to call that consciousness, that higher consciousness, like you mentioned? You could call it God, or you could call it Holy Spirit, or call it, your higher self or the universe or whatever. But that's what we're accessing. We're tapping into it because since it's all connected, we're part of it. We're not off here looking at it. We're part of it. All I need to do is figure out how to become aware of my part. In other words, wake up, Mikey. If you can access that database, you got all the answers to everything. And that's what we've brought to the show today. One special tool for activating that for sleep paralysis. It works 100% of the time. So, yay.
So, I mean, but it does feel as though when you're in the sleep state, when you're sleeping, and it does feel as though you are receiving the information, as though it's being given to you, not you tapping in from what you've said, that is. So, in that case, is it that there's something that is choosing to pass on that specific piece of knowledge at that time for you?
It's, what I've found for me anyway, and I know this is accurate. Most people would go, well, maybe, maybe not. But when we sleep, we dream. When we dream, we literally leave the body in spirit form. And spirit's eternal. It doesn't die with the body. It's still there. And what happens, the reason we get those messages when sleeping is we shut the mind down, because when we're awake, which is another state of consciousness, is a way of looking at it. I'm looking at, Joe's calling me and Mary wants to know, whoa, what about blah, blah, blah. And all this stuff is going on outside. And I'm trying to, keep things in harmony. And every day is normally chaotic. And the mind is like, blah, 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 blah. And when that's going on, we get disconnected with that database. We are disconnected. It's because I remember we've done a lot of media. We lived in Hollywood for years, and we used to go on major shows and stuff. And the good part about having the two of us is when when one of us is talking, the other one would be listening inwardly to the messages coming in from this database. And it always give us like, be sure you say blah, blah, and what they're looking for and blah, 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 blah. And then it's your turn to speak and you already got the message. And then but when I was talking, I noticed I could not hear that database. It just disconnected me. It was like the mind taking over. So when we're sleeping, that mind really gets shut down temporarily and allows us to tap into those messages which are already there coming in.
Yeah, I would say it a little differently, but that's totally on the money. But just it's nice to hear it from in different terms. Really, it's your higher self and your little self, and who's running the show. Okay, the higher self is the best version of yourself, loving, none of the negative attributes. And the little self is like, I want what I want when I want it, and gets angry and has, issues and addictions and this and the other. The higher self is that other version. Okay. And I don't mean like two personalities. I mean, literally, you have a good day and a bad day. And on your good days, you're just lovely and loving and graceful and nothing bothers you. And on the other days, it's like you stub your toe and this, and then they cut you off in traffic. And so that's what I mean by the little self and the higher self and who's running the show. And ultimately, your higher self is the soul connection. Okay. We're all connected, like even in the Bible and religious, because we don't want to, have those conversations because it's too many, there's too many. We like to be all inclusive instead of exclusive. So, but there is a comment, a statement, we're made or created in his image, right? So like, okay, so what does that mean? That means we're really a replica of the higher source, if you will. And that's where the word human comes in. And we'll get to that in a minute, but the word human actually means God within man, human. So it's like that part of you. So that's your higher self running the show. And it's easier to access your higher self when you're sleeping, like Michael mentioned, because the mind gets out of the way. And but that's your 24/7 connection. And when the volume gets turned up on the higher self, then it's a lot easier to tap in or connect. But we're never disconnected. That's just how we are. But so maybe if that viewpoint is a little for the viewers, the audience, the listeners, just kind of bringing it home, right down, matter of fact type stuff.
In that sense, and that's a great description, Nikki. For me, it's like I know I am a spark of it. Call it God, call it the great database. I know it, and because I've tested it and tried it. So on the days where usually when I'm on the treadmill in the morning, I run a couple miles, and I'll tell myself, I am a divine spark of it, and I can feel myself literally going into that higher self and getting out of the lower self, going into literally being a little God, and it's an interesting feeling because the awareness all changes and expands. And then I know I'm it. And, with that goes total responsibility also. I'm going to be I'd rather be a victim and, put it on somebody else. But I realize I'm responsible for every single thing that's in front of me, everything. But I've got the power to change it, work with it, and be it. So it's really that simple. But I think most people miss it,
Okay, so where does sleep paralysis fit in all of this for you?
Well, as a psychologist working with clients for 30 years, you've got your myriad of issues from nightmares and insomnia and sleep paralysis. But we have the one tool, which we're so excited to share because it's going to, what it does, it pulls you out of that state, that awful sleep paralysis state that is terrifying. And you don't know if you're going to come out of it or when or how. But this one tool works like that. And we've tested it once again with the clients with sleep paralysis. So we can say this with full confidence that, and of course it's free, right? They don't need to buy anything. They don't need to listen to anything. It's one magic word, literally. And it's back to the hue. Remember the human? Hue is the word. And I'll give you a demo. Hue. Simply inhale and exhale. Hue. But now when you're in that paralyzed state, right? You can't make a sound. Nope. but you don't have to. All you do is think the word hue, literally, and it'll pull you right out. And let me give you this case. This case, this is a good case here. Client comes to me, new client, and she's like 35. She's a young mom, and she says, I want to do the therapy, and I'm coming sleep paralysis, and I think I want to do a sleep study and maybe get on some meds. I don't know, da 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 da. I said, okay. I'm all about free will. I said, in the meantime, let me give you a tool. So if this happens, because she says this happens twice a week, every week, without fail, this sleep paralysis, her husband will be on the end of the bed and she cannot notify him. I mean, this is sleep paralysis. If you've ever experienced it, it's one of, it's horrific. So anyway, I share the word hue. I said, the next time you're having the experience, all I want you to do is think the word hue. Think HU, and it will pull you right out of that state. She goes, well, okay. And so then 1 week goes by and then we talk. And she said, well, sure enough, I had 2 episodes since we've talked. She said, and I tried it. She said, and you're right. It pulled me right out of the state. Immediately when I thought the word hue, HU, I was free. It freed me immediately. So, and that word is real special, and it carries a vibration, even though it's silent in that state. We're not doing it out loud, but the word still carries the vibration with it. And it's so of such a higher order, and it pulls you into your higher self. It's that instant connect. And that is why it literally lifts you out, just like your picture behind you with the three bodies. It literally, it's like, oh, I'm free. Yes. You want to add, please, but whoa, it's the real deal here.
Yeah. This is something that happened this morning as we're getting ready for the show. I started thinking about sleep paralysis. I haven't thought about it in a long time because I haven't dealt with it. Over 40 years ago, I used to have, everybody's been through it at one time or another. I at least once a week or a couple times a month, I have that total aware. I am frozen, couldn't speak, and I was aware of what was going on around me and realized that I was frozen. And I was wondering, am I going to be like this forever? Am I going to die? Is this death? What in God's name? I started hewing. And as of this morning, I connected the two. Ever since I hew every day for, a few minutes, maybe 20 minutes a day. And I haven't had to deal with sleep paralysis at all. That's why I never think about it anymore. It's been over 40 years since I've dealt with sleep paralysis. And it's because of the hue. And here, the scientific part is this, because, you got to wonder. I wonder, like, why does the hue take care of it every single time? It's simple quantum physics. When we're frozen, sleep paralysis, we're at a certain frequency or vibration, physiologically, emotionally, literally, and that's quantum physics. Everybody has a quantum signature. That's their frequency. That's why we're all different. And when I think the hue, you can think it or do it. Hue has the same effect. The mind doesn't know the difference. So when I use that, it changes the frequency immediately. It's like changing the channel with your remote on your TV. It immediately, boom, you're out of sleep paralysis. And that's scientifically why it works. It changes the frequency or the vibration of our sleep paralysis. It goes to another level. If sleep paralysis is a 2.7795, it suddenly goes to 5, and we're released, we're free. So yeah.
Are you able to say anything about the different perhaps entities that people will see during sleep paralysis?
Yeah, typically there's 5. Okay. There's planes of duality, which we're in. There's the physical, then the astral, causal, mental, and etheric. Then there's the soul plane and above. And at the soul plane and above, there's no duality, pure divine love. But on these other planes, it's duality, light, dark, heaven, hell, love, hate, boom, boom. So typically, and it's the same when people do drugs, we pop out of the body and go to the astral plane. The astral plane, part of it is quite stunning, but also that's where a lot of entities hang out. Another word is ghost, but I prefer entity. It's a much broader term. So
I like demons. Where's those demons at?
Yeah, they're demon entities to me.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. So yeah, so the astral plane and the entities there, and you've ever heard the term a bad trip, like acid or mescaline, and people have a bad trip, or some people get stuck, right? That's where they end up going and staying, is on the astral plane. So yeah, but that hue will whoop, get you right back into alignment, really.
And it's
Mhm.
interesting when we do drugs, God knows in my day back, and I've done enough drugs. I've tried the mescaline and LSD and you name it. We can go to some of these places on the other planes using the drugs, but we're opening a door. And with the drugs, we open a door and there's no control over it. So what comes in, the ghosts or the demons or a real negative experience, we can't control. When we use the hue, literally we open the door, but it doesn't allow anything in. You're protected at the same time. You're changing the frequency, but you're not opening that door wide and going somewhere where you don't know what's going to happen. Therein lies the difference. So stay away from the drugs and go with the hue.
Yeah, I had a few comments and a question, not to get off subject. We're still talking about sleep process here, but listening to you guys, there is a term in our economy called globalization. And this is, you'll say that, our economy is getting more globalized because someone in China can do someone business and someone in Indonesia. Indonesia is connected to, so hundreds of years ago, we did not have that. So listening to you guys, I feel like there's a globalization going on that, conscious or shared collective consciousness happening as well. So with that said, with the hue that you guys are talking about, I believe that works. And as you were saying, when we sleep, we're shutting down our conscious mind. I get a lot of reports, including myself, that when you're in the shower, ideas just flow out because you're calm and you're not thinking about the stresses. It's like one of the few times in our life, it's just like warm water is hitting the back of our neck. And it's like, man, I got so many ideas. So I came up with so many solutions while I was in the shower, So that leads me to ask, do you think that we as civilization and humanity, are we improving our spiritual intelligence? Or are we trying to catch up to the ancient times and our ancestors? Did they have better spiritual intelligence than us? And it's like, oh, they kept it away from us. Now we got to rediscover it. Or would they say, wow, you guys in 2025, you guys are so much spiritual intelligence? I can't tell because I feel like sometimes they're trying to catch up to old knowledge that's been removed from us from pyramids or ancestors, like I said. So, to rephrase that, do we
Yeah.
have more spiritual intelligence now than we did in the past or not?
Yes, no, and maybe. And sounds like a political response. I should run for office or something. But yes, we do. We have, because of the sound coming in that controls the consciousness, the waves of quantum physics. We have access to more now. However, you nailed it when you said, from ancient civilizations, we were at one point we were much higher in terms of using some of the consciousness because I have memories of things that, I'll share just one with you, but, it's out there. But Atlantis, I know I was on Atlantis before, which was for around 30,000 years for civilization, society. And it went from, I don't know, like 40,000 BC all the way to 10. And then it disappeared because it went under the water. And a lot of the migrants went to Mexico, Africa, and the Native Americans in America. Anyway, I've got very vivid recall in some sense of Atlantis and what went on there. And the technology was way beyond what we have now. They used huge crystals the size of, a 4-story building. And they used laser light and sound to interact with it to power the whole city and the civilization. And they had starships that went to other star systems way beyond ours. So did they have an advanced technology? I don't think their consciousness of the people was probably any more advanced than we are now, but they had learned how to use it more effectively and quickly than we're relatively ignorant in terms of, but it's coming very quickly back again, because you read every day AI is doubling every week. They thought it would double once a year, and it's like whoa. And they used AI in Atlantis. That's why it's not new. It's coming back. They're tapping into the database. So yeah, both those things are true. We were far advanced, but at the same time, we have access to that now.
Well, here's the thing. Why we're shut down from all the good stuff is because we have too much access to the luxuries, the cells and the TVs and the laptops and it's so we're outer focused,
Yep.
right? Back then we weren't so outer focused. We were introspective, and that so there's your difference. So it's really a matter of reminding, which is our mission, to remind everybody, hey, you got the tools right here. If you turn off the other stuff for a minute, start hewing, turns up the volume, then you'll get all the good stuff, so it's really just that the times have made it much easier for us to not focus inwardly. You know what I mean?
So the
Yes,
the
for
enemy,
sure.
yeah, the enemy is the noise, and the noise is the cell phones and I mean, absolutely no focus on being present. None. I was looking just yesterday. I was walking down the street, and there was a middle-aged lady walking with her. She had a kid in a little stroller, and she had a dog on a leash, and she was walking at the same time, just reading her phone, completely unfocused in the moment. The dog was jumping around and the kid was crying. I'm thinking, whoa, that's representative of our globalization now. It's so noisy that is the enemy. And as soon as we're silent, we hear the messages like, oh my God, there it
Yeah,
is.
I agree. And back to you saying that I read something that, memories can be transferred. So, like, your great great grandfather might have died, but you
Mhm.
might have some of the same memories as he does, which is something I can entertain. Think about birds in a nest, and then imagine a bird growing up to be an adult, and then it goes and makes a nest, right? Did it go to nest training school? How does it already know how to make a
Mhm.
nest? It's already innate in him.
Right.
It's that memory
Right.
that has been
Mhm.
passed down from generations and generations. So I do think we do have that. So, back to get on sleep paralysis, where I was getting at is we've got people in Indonesia describing demons the same as someone in, Nebraska. Like, right
Mhm.
on. How is this happening? This is not a coincidence. It's happening over and over again with different connections. So that goes back to our collective consciousness. I had the same dream, same experience as someone I've never met before. And the only way that we're able to know this is through the internet, of sharing a story and said, hey, I had that same experience, which would have never
Mhm.
happened, before technology and the internet. So now we're seeing that this globalization that is happening on Earth, it's something heavenly and spiritual that we're actually globalizing to as well, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and God knows we need it. It's pretty rough down
Yeah.
here.
And the I think you nailed it in terms of globalization. We ran into a guy, just a short story. Ran into a guy in Washington D.C. We went there to the Holographic Museum, which has disappeared now. I don't know whether it ever existed, but we had reservations, and they had holograms there. It was a big building with state of the art technology holograms. Anyway, the guy who ran the place opened the door for us. He said, "Hey, Sebastian's, I assume." And I said, "Yeah, that's us." And then there was a line behind us of 20 people wanting to get into the museum that day. And he says to the line in a clear voice, "We're closed for the day. Come back tomorrow. I'm sorry." And then he lets us in and closes the door and locks it. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, a serial killer. Now I'm getting a rush, and I'm wondering what's going on. And he spent an hour with us talking about the inner globalization. He
And this
said,
was 30 years
this
ago.
is 30. He said, are you familiar with quantum physics? And I said, yeah, because I was reading at the time. And he said, pretty familiar. I'm thinking, I don't want to go too far out. And I'm, yeah, okay. What do you got? And he said, everything is quantum entanglement. So it's globalization inwardly. It is a hologram. Make no mistake. He said, I wanted to share this with you guys because of what you're doing outwardly and your mission and stuff. How he knew all that, I have no idea. Obviously, he was some kind of spiritual master. And he said, every day you wake up and look outward and see individual parts not connected, you got to go here to the store and there's the car and you got to call Joe. All that, he said, is a misrepresentation. He said, you need to focus on the fact that everything is a whole. and just listen, and you already get all the information that you need coming in, and you have access to it. When you look at the parts, you become disconnected. And that was the major message that he was relaying. And he went into the quantum part of it and how it works. And it was like it changed our approach to how it is, kind of like you're talking about, the globalization of the consciousness. And that's what's going on right now. There's a tremendous opportunity to have it explode to where everyone has access to everyone else because of the technology. But right now it's acting as more of a disconnect. So, yeah.
I think that I really do like the conversation. We are running out of time at the moment, but we've touched on, I think this is the first time we've touched on the topic of a shared consciousness, which me with my kind of researcher scientific hat on, I find that absolutely fascinating. And I think that that's something that we really need to pick up on, is this idea of shared consciousness, because that could answer this question of this inner globalization that you've talked about, and that is there something there that we're all tapping into when it comes to sleep paralysis, why we're having these same shared experiences regardless of where in the world you are located, regardless of your culture, your background, your social status, and we all tapping into this same pool of shared consciousness. And then that leads on to, well, where is it? What is it? Who are the beings? Are we also sharing their consciousness as well? Are they able to tap into our consciousness? Which brings us onto the topic of extraterrestrials and non-human intelligences.
Mm-hmm.
And are we all kind of in that same kind of environment where we're all tapping in? It's all very, very, very exciting. I think I'll give you the opportunity to just respond to that, because I think, Dr. Nick, I can see you itching a bit to get something out. But I'll let you respond, and then we'll have to kind of close this session and maybe continue another time.
Well, what you're saying is so timely. It's so perfect. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to share the hue again, so the people really get the technique. And I want to say the path of knowingness, which is what Divine Guidance Institute is about. It's the ancient way of knowing. And so all the questions from, is my deceased grandma in heaven? Is she okay? Till, should I move to Texas? And is my husband cheating? All of these questions we can go into full knowingness about, such as the aliens and the consciousness. And this is part of the research. When we use right and left brain, the hue gets us above duality. So it gets us, we call it your inner AI and your inner GPS. You really tap in to that database and you can go into full knowingness. You track your data, your research and whatnot, then to take it to the next level of how do you know? How do you know? You read it, you believe it, you researched it, but then there's the next level of knowing. Just like, and we can compare it to being in love. If you're in love, you can't explain it. You can't convince someone it's just a pure knowingness, kind of like with the gut feeling. So with all those questions that people have, you can actually use your dreams and signs and intuition as a trio of methodology to go into full knowingness. And it's actually walking through a door and having a liminal transformation. And just real quick, when I had my mountain experience on the mountain, this is before the beginning of the mission, and I thought it was God. Now I know it was a spiritual being. It was not God, but all of this information was transmitted to me, the truth of everything. And I was a Catholic. I wasn't looking for nothing, but I had this experience, which was a dream, but dreams are real. So, okay. And everything was downloaded. So when I woke up, I was off balance. I didn't know what end was up. I didn't know what was real. And so I asked for a sign out of desperation every hour for an entire year. This is how unstable I was. I needed a sign to let me know that was real. The information was real. I needed to know the truth. And I knew to talk to no one because everyone's got their motives and their viewpoints. So I ended up asking for a sign every waking hour for an entire year. Within 5 minutes of asking, something would have happened. A rainbow would appear. I'd overhear a conversation. Something would occur to let me know that that was real and I was cool and everything was on point. But so we have tested these tools like more than anyone, honestly. That's why we call it the preeminent institute on divine guidance. So anyway, I wanted to share that for everyone. If you really want to know something, look to these other tools after you do your common sense and your research, to, you know. And back to the hue for accessing your database: out loud or silent, eyes open or closed. Hue in the shower, while you're driving to work, in a business meeting. No one will know, because again, it's out loud or silent, eyes open or closed, for 1 minute up to 20 minutes a day. And what fits for the person, what jives with them. Bedtime, perfect time. And as Michael mentioned, he no longer has sleep paralysis because he adopted that technique daily. And that's what we do recommend, certainly. It's the one-stop shop. That thing, we call it the universal panacea. It handles everything at once. You want to quit smoking, and you want to be more loving, and you want to, it just kind of handles things simultaneously. And for your sleep paralysis, when that occurs, I want you to think the hue, experiment. We invite you to experiment, okay, with the hue. Think it, but we promise, really, it's going to lift you right up out of it. You're gonna freedom. So anyway, there you go.
Okay, and so if anyone wants to get in touch with you both, what's the best way?
Well, our divineguidanceinstitute.org. Yeah, we just launched. Actually, we just launched the mystery school last week, October 22nd. The new website, this was a year to put this website together, which is the school. First it's virtual, then we'll go physical, when the time is right. And so exciting. And we just launched our signature course, One Magic Word Vibrational Sound Therapy. We actually put up a deal for your audience. It's only $97 for the course at onemagicword.com. So yeah, lots of goodies. Oh, they can do a free spiritual IQ test on the website.
Yep.
Lots of good stuff. So
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. And thank you both for your time. It was indeed a pleasure.
all right. Thank you
This is
for
fun.
having us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So much. We'd love to talk again. Thank you.
All right, great. All the
All right.
best.
You too.
Bye-bye.